Hi, I'm back, and I want to show you some important painting techniques. The first thing I want to show you all is that the angle that you hold your brush when you apply your paint is very, very important. So right now I have a totally dry brush, and I'm actually going to go into the clean side. This is going to be the clean side of my water right here, and I'm going to wet my brush down. But right now, my brush is too wet. If I went and took my paint right now, it would mix with all the water that was in my brush, and it would leave a really watery looking cell over here, and I don't want that. So I'm going to take my now wet brush, and I'm actually going to just go like this over here on my paper towel, and now I have a damp brush. I'm going to load my damp brush up with paint. When I load my brush with paint, I'm only loading the end. I could even load a little more like that, but I would never load it up here on the ferrule because we don't want paint to get in there. So the reason I chose this brush size right now is because I'm going to be filling this square cell, and this is a flat brush, and it has a nice kind of right angle. And I'm going to go in, and I'm laying my paint down. I'm trying to make nice even brush strokes, and I'm controlling the angle of my brush. And what I mean by controlling the angle of my brush is if I hold my brush perpendicular to my paper like this, it will actually pull the paint back off. I'll show you here. And it will leave a really translucent looking cell. I'm going to reload my brush with paint again. But if I lay my brush down at an angle like this, it's going to leave the paint here on the paper more readily. So can you guys see the contrast between these two? So when you're trying to remove paint or use less paint, you hold your brush up at an angle like this. When you're trying to leave the paint in the cell, you're going to hold it down like this. And it's pretty easy to see the difference. And now I have brush on the other side of my paint. I have paint on the other side of my brush. So I'm just going to use it. And you can see I don't have brush strokes. I don't have unwanted texture. I have a nice flat looking cell. And then as you know, this cell here would be filled with what color right here? Just red, because red and red makes red. This brush that I have right here would not be ideal for this little circular one. So what I can do is I'm going to go into the dirty side, and I'm going to rinse my brush here on this bottom part. It's almost like a little washboard, and so now my brush is nice and clean. And there are a couple things you can do. You can leave the brush hanging out here like this. My preference, though, is to leave it sitting over here on the paper towel like that, so it's nice and damp. And I'm going to take a smaller brush now, clean water, dry it, and I'm just going to take another color for fun. So here's orange and orange, so this cell would be orange. And I'm going to keep my brush at a nice flat angle, and I'm filling this in with orange. I can change the angle of my hand, I can change the angle of my paper, but what I want is a nice, even, flat looking cell. Are there questions right now about this? Okay, then I'm going to rinse my brush, and I could either dry it and take another color, or I could set it here and change brushes depending on which cell I'm going to go to next. We talked last class about mixing colors using either the palette knife or a brush, and you know how to do that. So today's a work day. Go ahead.